I have been totally engulfed today in the JonBenét Ramsey case.
I've seen some videos of that out.
Engulfed. And, you know, this is a classic. Like, anybody who's been into true crime knows about JonBenét Ramsey. She's America's Madeleine McCann, okay?
Yeah.
The parents were suspected heavily, just like in the Madeleine McCann story, situation, case. And it's just super tragic. Super, super tragic.
A girl
young,
on the rise.
Beautiful, like super loved by many, and maybe many pedophiles too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when you have a good-looking child, like a really cute child,
charismatic child, who's
yep.
like loves everyone.
I know.
They are literally a target, and that is what is horrible.
It's scary. It's disgusting. It's a shame. Yeah.
So the dad, he's been making his rounds for a while now. He's done CrimeCon. He's done many interviews. CrimeCon, they literally said, "Did you kill your daughter?" And he had to say no, like on stage in front of everybody.
Really?
Yeah. So, we're gonna get into some theories, and the guy that's making the news headlines right now about his confession. After we're just gonna do a quick rundown of like what happened. I don't know if I'd say super quick, but there's a lot of information. So, this happened in Boulder, Colorado in 1996. She was 6 years old. Her mother and father were Patsy and John Ramsey. JonBenét Ramsey was his name, so like her name is a play on his name.
Okay, yep.
JonBenét is her name. She had an older brother named Burke. And apparently, in 1994, he hit her in the face with a golf club and left a scar on her face, which is something a lot of people have given some kind of significance to, which goes along with a theory later. I don't know how I feel about it. But, so, this is Christmas time, 1996. We're in the month of December, and the Burkes the Ramseys are like a prominent family in this area.
Sure.
The dad is a CEO of his own business. They're wealthy. They're like the hostess with the mostest. They're doing the holiday parties, parades. I think JonBenét in this time wins 2 beauty pageants. They had a holiday tour in their town where like 1,500 to 2,000 people walked through their house that month.
15? Oh, I did hear about that. Yeah, I remember that.
So many people were in that house where the murder occurred that month.
Yep.
Literally thousands.
Yeah, I would so not be good with that, you guys. I'm not willing to have 1,500 people walk through my house. Sorry.
Yeah, I felt like that was a really important detail that I feel like the suspect list is enormous for this.
Well, they saw opportunity. Whoever it was, they saw an obvious opportunity.
Okay, so get this. A window in the basement had been knocked out and had been that way for weeks, and the dad was like, well, we live in a safe neighborhood. I'm not going to repair that. And just left a window busted out in their basement. Thousands of people walking through the entire house, including the basement and the cellar where she's later found. Interesting. I'm just going to say it's interesting.
Yeah, it stands out like a sore thumb interesting.
So she also was on a float in the holiday parade, okay? Like
so
they are
endless eyes on her.
Endless eyes on her. And it just makes you wonder. So, December 23rd, they had a party at their home. It was like 30 guests, and there was a guy there who was Santa. His name was Bill Reynolds. And that night, for some reason, there was a mistaken 911 call. Police showed up. They said it was a mistake. They left. Don't know if that's significant. Next day on the 24th, she's playing at her friend's house. Says she had a secret visit from Santa.
You know what? I don't mean to interrupt you here, but the first time I heard this story, and I've heard it a couple times, but I never realized that guaranteed That 911 call was to test how quick they got to their house. Guaranteed it was to test how quick they got to their house.
See, these little details are sometimes super significant.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's a good point.
It was a test.
It's a good theory.
Guaranteed it was a test.
So it was...
They knew how quick they needed things to be done to...
So most likely it was somebody at the holiday party.
Yeah, so if a neighbor called or somebody saw something or something was going on, you know what your time frame is.
That's a good point.
I never thought of that before. That's totally possible.
Yeah, I agree. So
what do you guys think?
She's playing at her friend Megan's house the very next day and says that she had a secret visit from Santa. She told Megan's mom this, which was a little strange. That's a little strange. They go to a church event that night, and then, it's Christmas Day the next day. They have a dinner party with their friends Fleet and Priscilla White at their house. Normal family dinner on Christmas, with friends. The kids, they go home. The kids fall asleep in the car. They carry JonBenét up to her bed. And 10 p.m. was the last time she was seen alive in her bed sleeping. The parents go to bed like 30 minutes later. The next day, they get up at like 5:30 a.m. because they have a flight to Michigan. They're going on vacation. They're literally up early, like rushing to get things ready for vacation. The dad's showering. The mom is rinsing out because apparently JonBenét had a bedwetting problem. Now, I've heard many people say that signals sexual assault.
Yes, it does.
I've heard many people say it can be constipation. It can
be many things.
It could be many things. You just don't know. She could have had a UTI from something harmless, like not knowing how to wipe good because she's 6.
Yeah.
Like, there's many things that can happen that can give a little girl a UTI. I had many when I was a little kid, and I never experienced SA when I was a child. So... I just don't know if that's significant, but maybe it becomes significant when we hear more evidence later. So anyway, the mom is rinsing out her, jammies. So they think that she was changed into, a sweatshirt and taken out of her jammies that night because she wet the bed. This was a problem she had. Her parents were super frustrated by it. Mom rinses them out, goes to walk downstairs, and sees a note laying on the bottom of the stair banister. This is the infamous ransom note. She screams, shrieks. John said he could hear her from upstairs, and he knew, something is super wrong. So apparently she's hysterical. The ransom note is super sus, you guys. I feel like every theory we're gonna go into, the ransom note totally throws it off. I just don't understand the ransom note. It has been inspected by so many people. It is split down the middle. People think it was the mom, or they don't know. But there seems to be a few facts that are somewhat universal. And that is, whoever wrote it had, their writing ability was high. They were an intelligent person. Okay. Their native language was English, and they thought it was a female.
Okay.
So, interesting. But as the note goes on, it's the writing gets sloppier as they get to the end. And also, it seems that they misspell a few words that seem easy. Because in this note, they're pretending there's some foreign faction. Okay? And they misspell some words that seem like it would be easy to get right. And then some really long words, it seems like they spelled it perfectly. Which doesn't really make sense. So, let me pull up the ransom note real quick.
A foreign faction.
So this is entitled to Mr. Ramsey. Listen carefully. We're a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 will be in $20 bills. Weird.
Yeah.
So they put down like a bunch of stipulations about the delivery and all of, like it's weird how specific they are.
Well, it kind of makes sense with the money because I'm pretty sure $100 bills are tracked differently than smaller denominations. Not to mention, in smaller denominations, there's more prints of those, which make them harder to track. So, like, if I was a killer or robber, like trying to get money from someone, I need enough money to pay people to get away into another country where the serial number on the hundreds won't matter anymore. That's my guess.
See, I've been wondering, anybody I've heard talk about this, they're like, that's weird, why would they ask for it? And I think the same thing, and I don't know anything about money, but I'm glad you know that.
Yeah, that's just my guesstimation there, okay?
Yeah, because I really wanted to know, and I couldn't find anybody explain why they would ask for that, like that.
That's what I think, because 20s are less likely to get caught, okay? They're more usable. And how many places have you been, especially back in the day, that said we don't take hundreds? A lot.
Yeah, true. So basically they say, like, if you call the cops, if you do anything other than what we're telling you to do, you tell anybody, you don't follow our instructions, she dies. They talk about beheading her, and it says if they don't follow their instructions, you stand, she's going to die. And they said if you do, you stand 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around. So don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. And it says victory, ! Signed SBTC. Whatever that means.
Why do they think it's a woman who wrote it? To me, the handwriting looks masculine.
See, I don't know. I don't know. That's just what handwriting experts said.
Yeah. No, I get that. I was just curious if it said anywhere why it seemed feminine.
Maybe they were biased. Maybe half of those people who think it's a female or think it's Patsy are just biased. And they're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not unheard of. But they did find that it would take no less than 20 minutes to write if you, like, they literally timed people writing it. But you have to account for the person thinking about what they're going to say. The other thing is it was written with a notepad and paper in their house at their writing desk. So whoever this was came in there and found a notepad and a pen and sat in their house and wrote it.
And as you can see, it's too neat for them to be one of the parents that are using their opposite hand. It's too neat. This is somebody using their actual writing hand here.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is neat. The writing is pretty good, but you can see that it gets sloppier.
It looks masculine, though. I don't know why I feel like that, because I'm not a writing expert, but to me it looks masculine.
Interesting. But this ransom note, it just really throws me off. It's really strange. Mm-hmm. Especially what happens later. Like, that just makes it way more stranger. On top of that, they found 2 practice notes that had been written and thrown away. So someone practiced this twice and then wrote it. And that's 3 pages of paper. 3 pages of a ransom note, which is really strange. Anyway, so it's 5:52 a.m. They go, like, the parents go look for JonBenét in her room. She's not there. They check on her older brother. He is there, fast asleep. John reads a note, and Patsy calls 911. In this, which I want to play for you real quick because I'm really curious what you think, she is hysterical. Like, super upset, as you would think. Her daughter's gone.
Of course.
Well, the 911 dispatcher claims that the last 6 seconds she could hear other voices, and that when Patsy had thought she hung up, she didn't. And there was an immediate drop in her tone from being hysterical at a 10 to like calm. And it was really weird. And people have enhanced this audio and believe they hear Burke and John. I do not hear that. I can't tell if it's a man's voice, female. I can't even tell what's going on. I don't get it. But let's play it real quick. You tell me what you think.
Police. What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There's a note left and our daughter's gone. A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter? 6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old. How long ago was it? I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's gone. Does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? I don't know. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? It says SBTC. Victory. Please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please. I'm sending an officer over, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she right here? Oh my God, please. Okay, come on. Somebody. I am, honey. Please. Take a deep breath away, okay? Hurry. Patsy. Patsy?
Dude, I don't know how anybody can hear that. And I watched a cold case detective talk about this, and he said, I literally don't give any merit to that. He's like, I don't hear anything other people hear. Like, it doesn't even make sense.
To me, this sounds legitimate. It sounds like their son woke up. She set the phone down, was like, oh my God, help me, Jesus, help me. She's losing her mind, clearly. And the son's asking, what happened? What did you find? And the father's saying, we're not talking to you.
Right.
Okay? Because they're freaking out, right?
Yeah.
So nothing sounds shady to me.
Yeah,
I
agree with
legitimate.
you. Looking at it from that
Even
perspective,
the tonality.
Looking at that perspective, I agree with you. It could be totally legitimate. And then looking at the other perspective where they think the family had something to do with it, people are saying, well, they're mad at him because he did it or something. They're covering it up. Like, I think people looking at it with that negative lens are automatically assuming it's shady.
So for you guys that don't know, I've been in sales, really high intensity sales my whole life, and tone is really important, and body language, and I feel like I'm pretty good at picking up on those things. I obviously wasn't expertly trained, but my career and profession has depended on it, my entire life. But so even in who did we cover? The guy who ended his wife and son, Murdoch. Even Murdoch, I could tell from that one call that something was up what was going on there, and there were a few things we were able to point out. But this all sounds legit to me. Everything. The way that she's saying the words, it sounds like genuinely out of breath. When someone's faking it, sometimes they take breaths at different areas in sentences they're saying, and then when they're trying to pretend to freak out, a lot of times they start with a lower tone, and the middle of the sentence they're higher and then come down. Like, the way they speak, in the fashion they speak, is different when they're faking it versus when it's real. I think that's genuine.
Yeah, I feel like it's genuine. The father has, come out and talked about it a lot in the past several years, because he's hired private investigators. Like, he still wants to find who did it. But
I think it's a man.
I think even after, with interviews on TV, you could tell the mom was genuinely grieving. Like, it didn't seem fake. But other people have other theories. Then after the 911 call, Patsy, the mother, she calls the White family, which they were at their dinner party the night before, remember?
Yeah.
They call them over, which was Fleet and Priscilla White, which people found odd that she called friends over immediately after the 911 call. I don't know if that's that weird, like needing support, my daughter's gone, like help us, like reaching out to anybody and everybody. I don't think that's weird.
I don't necessarily think it's weird. And the thing is, too, like...
some people are people.
I probably shouldn't go down that route, but like a lot of people that I've known that have a lot of money have a lot of really close relationships with other people, like even sexual type, that creates a different level of bonding and things like that. So for me, I don't think that's weird.
Yeah, but
either.
Also being rich is all about connections, who you know, and stuff like that. And they seem like they might have been like that a little bit, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the police arrive right at like 5:59 a.m. They get there pretty quick. They search the house. There were no tracks. It snowed that night. There were no tracks in the snow around the house, though as it's snowing, they can be covered up. There's ways that they could have been covered up, I guess.
Sure.
But usually when it snows on top of tracks, there's still an indentation. Mm-hmm. It usually isn't just like gone unless it snows a lot. But there was the broken window in the basement in the playroom. It had been there for weeks, as I said before. So one weird thing is Linda Arndt, which was the detective on the case at the scene, asked the father to search the house.
Okay.
Is that not a little weird?
I don't know.
Usually at a crime scene, police come in and take over. They don't say, hey, you, parent of the missing child, go search your house.
The mother might have still been freaking out. So priorities, and maybe she felt like she needed to stay with the mother and their other kid. I don't know.
See, I'm wondering at the same time, like, it's their house, so they will know if something's not normal.
Yep.
So while people are saying that's crappy police work, in the same respect, I've heard people act like he didn't have a police officer with him. I think he actually did have a police officer with him, because they said something about him going missing while the police were there for a little bit and going through his mail and stuff, which I don't know if they're talking about when he went to go get the ransom money, because he went to go get ransom money. He also went to get the mail, but they didn't have a mailbox outside the house. They had a mail slot.
Okay.
So at some point, he was unaccounted for, and then they wanted to they started getting suspicious of the family. And they wanted to keep tabs on him. So, and apparently they wanted him to stay busy at the same time.
Most of the time it is a family member, so.
I think the police were walking around with him like, is anything out of order? Is anything going on here?
Yeah.
But anyway, they search the house many times. They never find anything. Like, they can't find anything except for that broken window. Now, all the while, the cellar door, wine cellar, they have a wine cellar. Okay, this is a big, big, nice house. They have their own wine cellar in the basement. It's locked from the outside. So to all of them, it didn't really seem like, well, why would she be in there? It's locked from the outside. Like, we locked it last. Like, they didn't think to look in there, I guess, apparently.
Sure.
But, so apparently they send the young boy away, Burke, and they clean the kitchen. They allow the friends and stuff that are there to clean the kitchen. Okay. They're not thinking this is like a crime scene, I guess, really, which it kind of is. A kidnapping happened here.
Yeah.
But they clean up the kitchen.
Wouldn't you want to check to make sure there's no dishes used or anything like that?
Well, see, there were. There were.
Oh.
So, they actually think the crime probably happened in the kitchen. And they freaking cleaned the kitchen.
Oh my god.
I know. So, anyway, finally, at like 1 p.m. after the ransom call was supposed to happen at like 10. It never happened. Nobody ever called.
Okay.
1 p.m., she decides to tell John and to go like search again. John grabs his friend Fleet and they go downstairs. Fleet said that like apparently he had looked down there before and the hallway light to the wine cellar was on, but it was locked and everything. They go down there and John opens the wine cellar door and yells he found her, and it's dark in there. And he's like, how did he see her? It was dark. And after he says he found her, he flips on the light, and he goes to her. Fleet runs upstairs, like, call an ambulance, and this is how she was found, okay? It's horrific. It's
there was light in the hallway, so he could have seen her.
I think that's weird to say. I feel like from the beginning, which John even says this, the father says this in media interviews, when people went up to him, people have come up to him and said, I'm so sorry that I thought you did it. I thought you did that to your own child. I'm sorry I even thought that. And he said, well, how could you not have? He said, the media painted us as monsters from the beginning. Of course you thought that. Yeah. And I think that's something we need to be careful of in true crime cases, like the Koberger case. Like, things can happen, evidence can build that can make you think it's one way, but it's actually not. And this is a perfect case of that.
Yeah.
It's perfect for that. All of this evidence could be explained in a totally different way. Mm-hmm. It can be interpreted in all different ways. And there's even DNA evidence in this. And we still don't know who did it. So, anyway, so she was under a blanket, okay? They pull the blanket off. John yells, oh, my baby, and she's got black duct tape on her mouth, and he rips it off, which he's panicking. Okay.
Yeah, of
course. A police officer should have been down there with him. I feel like he shouldn't have been down there alone without a police officer from the beginning, searching the house. Like, I think he had police officers with him other times he searched, and then other times not. And in this time, there wasn't a police officer there. He rips the duct tape off her face, which is evidence. Like, he just contaminated the crime scene.
Yeah.
She is bound with her hands above her head. And he tries to untie her wrists, and then he carries her upstairs. So, she suffered SA. She suffered blunt force trauma to the head with a heavy object and was strangled with a garrote. Like, a garrote, if you don't know, is like a cord with 2 wooden sticks, and you see them in movies, okay? Well, this was a makeshift garrote, and it was made from a paintbrush from the mother's painting set in the basement.
Okay.
Pieces of that paintbrush were also found inside of her. So she had been SA'd with it, and then a makeshift garrote was made with it, and she was killed with it.
Oh my gosh.
There was, bleeding in her underwear, but there was no bleeding on her head. They didn't even know the head trauma was there until the autopsy. They found that out after the autopsy. So the right side of her skull was fractured, but it was all internal. There was no blood. She had like a sweatshirt on, and apparently her wrist being tied was over the sweatshirt. So a lot of people have questioned, it was over her sweatshirt and it seemed loose enough she could have got out of it. But you got to remember, the dad tried to untie her. So what, like, can we really say it was so loose she could have got out of it when he tried to untie her as soon as he saw her?
Yeah. Or it was loose, and the way that the killer was controlling her was grabbing the string in the middle. Imagine an arm here and an arm here.
She's 6.
You are grabbing that in the middle, and you have full control, you know?
She's 6, and it's an adult, clearly, that did this to her. I did hear people say that she was in full rigor mortis and that they believe her wrists were tied after she was dead. Okay. So that's not official. Matter. I don't know that it matters, and I don't know that that's even official information. But I have heard people speculate that. So the autopsy, the coroner also said they believed that there had been long-term SA going on, which is not, I don't know if that's entirely confirmed. There was DNA found under her fingernails from 3 different people, 2 males and a female. There was also male DNA, which was not sperm or blood. It's assumed to be touch DNA, in her underwear and her pants, like long john jammy pants. I have heard people think that that could be from a factory, which, if it's Christmas, she just got new jammies and maybe underwear. I actually think the underwear were a gift to one of her cousins, and she liked them, and she took them because they were too big for her, but she was wearing them. Maybe because she changed in the middle of the night when she wet the bed and put on new things that hadn't been washed before. So it could be DNA from a factory worker, and there have been studies conducted showing that if you go buy clothes from a store, they can have DNA on them from people touching them. Like, it's not unheard of. So
no, it's super common.
It's common. He carries her upstairs after finding her in this horrible way. The police officer has him put her in the living room, which they also think that's huge contamination evidence. Like, the crime scene is completely contaminated. It is not cordoned off. They only cordoned off her bedroom like hours into this. The mother's hysterical, throwing herself over the body. She asked to literally be sedated. She's like, literally knock me out. I'm over this. Like, I need to be put to sleep. Which I don't blame her. Like, this is tragic. This is horrible. I can't even imagine. So, anyway, the parents were uncooperative because the police started suspecting them, and I heard people say, well, they didn't start pointing fingers at them right away, but they were suspecting them that day. Like, they were, saying keep tabs on them, as they should.
Because
but I think the parents,
statistics show that it's most likely a family member.
Yeah, but the parents felt it, and they literally lawyered up 2 hours after the body was found.
Dude, that's so dumb, because the police should be honest with them. That's where, obviously, they had a flaw there, because if I was a police officer, I would even in this situation, be like, look, you're going to be offended by me, but I need to consider you as being guilty, and I need you to understand that, okay? That's it.
Yeah, that is totally okay. And I think anybody should know and be reasonable that everyone involved is a suspect until you're cleared.
Absolutely.
So,
I wonder if the police were just trying to be, like, secret about it, though, and they're, like, talking to each other and not just being straight up, like...
I think they didn't want to be, because the parents are the wife is hysterical. Yeah. So they're thinking, if we tell them that, like, this could be, like, adding to trauma. What if they're not the people? Which I agree, it's stupid, but this is in the 90s, okay? Police work was probably a little bit different back then. I don't know. Or maybe they just didn't do a good job. A lot of people don't think they did a good job. A lot of people think they did an awful job. I heard a cold case detective, police officer talk about this and say he thinks they did an excellent job, which he's a police officer, so he's a little bit biased.
No
there.
case is perfect. I am a
Agreed.
100% advocate for that statement because people are involved, dude. We have no idea. No idea.
I think that police oftentimes try to do their best in every situation. I'm not saying anyone tried to do a bad job, but they can make mistakes, and they may not have had a great training, you know, in situations like this. So anyway, they did not give an official police interview until 5 months later. After this, they lawyered up 2 hours after the body was found with separate lawyers, a lawyer for her, a lawyer for him. They talked to the older brother. He said he was asleep all night. So, here's some theories, okay? The older brother... Okay, JonBenét Ramsey was found with undigested pineapple in her stomach.
Okay.
The older brother and her loved eating pineapple in milk. Like, they would put pineapple bowl, pull milk over it like cereal.
Okay.
They found a bowl of that in the kitchen. It had the mom's DNA and the older brother's DNA on it, but not JonBenét's. There's a theory that he was jealous of her. He had hit her in the face with a golf club, you know, a year or two earlier. And, you know, like a bratty little sister, she goes up and takes a piece of pineapple out of his bowl, and then he hits her in the face with a big mag flashlight they have in the kitchen. She falls, it fractures her skull, she falls to the floor, and the parents cover it up. That this little boy has, like, anger issues. And he did do a Dr. Phil interview where he smiled the whole time, and it was really awkward and really weird. I don't know. I found that a lot of people do believe it was somebody in the house. They're not sure who. A lot of people think it's Patsy because she treated, this is another theory, she treated her daughter like a living doll, put makeup on her, even not when she was in pageants, and bleached her hair at 6 years old. Bleached her daughter's hair.
She was in pageants, though.
Yeah, but that's... and pageants are very exploitative to children. People are saying, like, pedophiles, like, it's kind of a haven for pedophiles. Anyway, that she was really frustrated by this bedwetting, and maybe she was, like, a perfectionist type mom, and that her daughter was doing this, like, really bothered her, and she got really angry with her that night and hit her or pushed her or did something to her, and then they covered it up. Now, there is the Santa theory, where that guy, Bill McReynolds, that was Santa, did it. Because he was, like, obsessed with her. He said he had a closer relationship to her than his own children. And he gave her a Christmas card saying that day, the day before, that she was going to be getting a surprise Christmas 85%. Gift the next day. 85% what?
85% of all crimes like this are family members or somebody very close to the family, like family members.
I know.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming, the statistic. I know. So he gave her that Christmas card that said she'd be getting a surprise after Christmas. Well, get this. 22 years before JonBenét went missing, to the date, his daughter went missing, but was later found. The exact day. His daughter went missing 22 years earlier, but was later found. Also, he carried a vial of glitter on him, of this gold glitter that JonBenét gave him, okay? He carried it on his person at all time and said when he died, he wanted it to be mixed with his ashes.
Yeah, weird? Dude. Strange.
So he later dies. Apparently he was cleared by the police. Everybody was cleared by the police. So then there's John Mark Carr. He confessed in 2005 to a guy at University of Colorado his name's Michael Tracy, in an email correspondence where he said, I did it. And he gave, like, specific details that they thought were relevant to the case, that maybe he for real was the one. They go arrest him. His DNA didn't match. And there's also other things where he was, like, supposedly in a different area of America, and they have proof, so they know for sure there's no way he did it. He's just a freak. He's like a pedophile. I think he actually was working at a school. He was literally a teacher.
Then why would he say he did that? That's so strange.
I don't know. There's also a theory about Michael Helgoth, worked at an auto salvage yard nearby. He ended up being a part of like a murder where it was made to look like a self-deletion. So he died. And there was a lot of weird stuff with that. Him talking to a coworker about a business deal where him and his buddy were going to make like over $50,000 each, about the amount of the ransom. And he was also had like a really shady history of like animal abuse and SA and stuff like that. So there's also the theory that John Ramsey really pissed off a coworker, because the $118,000 is really weird because that was his Christmas bonus money. That is exactly how much he got for his Christmas bonus at work.
No way.
Exactly, $118,000.
Okay, so could that be relevant? Sure, it could be relevant, but if that was bigger than normal and they like to brag, they had 1,500 people come through their house. They could have been drinking, hanging around in social circles, and talking about that. So anyone could have heard it. Anyone.
Yeah, I agree with you. So then we'll get into this guy. This is the one that's going around right now like crazy. I don't know why. So
this is the most important part because he just,
Yeah.
Okay.
But he didn't just confess. Everybody knew about this years ago. So I don't know why it's making the rounds. This didn't happen recently.
What?
This happened years ago. I do not know why this is going... He was... Okay, at the 1-year anniversary, this guy, Gary Howard Olivia, I don't know. He was seen at the 1-year anniversary of her death at a Christmas vigil there for her death, and literally the dad, John Ramsey's private investigator, took pictures of him there holding this folder, and they were investigating him because he was a known pedo in the area. He's a homeless man in the area that people knew, and they were looking into him because John thought for real that he could be for real who did it.
Really?
And there were tips called into the cops literally the day after her murder. So, Gary Howard Olivia. The news likes to say he lived a few houses away. No, he didn't. He got mail at a church nearby because he was homeless. And that was like 13 houses down from the Ramseys' home. So, December 27, 1996, he calls an old high school friend who lives in California and says, in tears, I'm in Boulder, Colorado, and I just hurt a little girl. The guy's like, what? He said he doesn't know what to make of it. He tries to get more info. He won't give him more info. They hang up. Next day, this guy gets up and sees the news of JonBenét Ramsey and is like, holy shit, and calls in a tip to the police. Here's nothing. 3 months pass. Calls in another tip. Here's nothing. Now, fast forward 19 years. This guy's in prison for child prawn and confesses in a series of letters to the same guy. Sends this guy in California letters saying he did it. And here's the letters. Okay. It said, hold on, let me zoom in. The handwriting, I mean, whoa. Do you feel like the handwriting is similar?
Yeah, one's just in capitals. just save those pictures. So I write in all caps, no matter what. If I'm writing, it is in all caps, and my capital letters are just taller than the rest of my letters. And the note is not written in all caps. You need to look at some things that could stand out, like B's, D's, E's.
Okay, the D is not the same at all.
Where?
D.
Yeah, it
and
is.
D.
It's the same.
No.
Yeah,
because this one has a hook.
Fast. That one is a capital. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But it is in all caps. And I know my handwriting has changed a little bit throughout my life. But it says, said I had already become. Is that what it says? Here, I think I wrote down a part of it. I'm just going to read the most relevant part because I can't really read it that well, to be honest. Maybe I'm just blind. Okay, he said, I never loved anyone like I loved JonBenét, yet I let her slip and her head bashed in half, and I watched her die. It was an accident. Please believe me. It says, please don't give up on me. She was not like the other kids. Please don't hate me. You're the only person I write to. I'm sorry I'm evil and murder children. Please don't turn your back on me. Please keep writing to me. I consider myself to be very lucky to know you. And then it says Gary. Okay, so I read it a little bit backwards on the first paragraph. Sorry about that, but you can read it. Because I was I have a note of part of it written, only a section, and then I picked up from the rest. Okay. Anyway, moving on. So a lot of people do not believe this is the guy. His DNA doesn't match, okay? There's no DNA match. But the DNA under her fingernails, they're thinking may be too degraded.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, or it could be from playing and having all those kids around and things like that from earlier in the day.
Yep.
No?
It very well could be. But the DNA didn't match the parents. The parents were officially exonerated. Like, they were called to a grand jury for neglect, not murder, actually. For neglect and putting her in a position where she could be harmed. And the DA decided that he didn't want to go through with it because he felt like there was enough evidence, while the grand jury actually did feel like, apparently, allegedly, from what I heard,
when they were just at the house. Like, I don't understand.
That they were neglectful and had caused her to have this happen, even if they didn't do it themselves, or that they had more information that could have led to it. So I don't know if you can call that official exoneration, but people say it is. People say it is, and they say the DNA not matching is an official exoneration. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I actually feel personally that it was an outsider. It was an intruder. Now, there was a cobweb on that bottom downstairs window that wasn't disturbed. People are saying there's no way they could have came through that window unless they had knocked out the cobweb. And also the snow, like footprints. I heard the cold case detective that I was listening to, which I'll put his channel name up here because he is really good. Like, I like him. I don't agree with him on everything all the time, but he's more of an expert than I am. He thinks all of the evidence points to somebody in the house. Now, I did hear him say a theory that maybe the person was waiting in the house before they got home. I was just going to
say that.
Really?
Yep.
I knew you would bring that up. I knew you would make those connections.
Because it's a really big house.
Wrote the note. That's why they took their time writing it. And then when they came home, like, they already, you know what I mean? They had it down.
Well, and it was a really big house. And she said the night before that someone visited her. How do we know they weren't in the house for 2 days? How do we know?
Yeah. And okay, so get this. The pineapple, like, did the guy come in and eat, like, did she wake up in the middle of the night and go eat pineapple on her own? Like, what is that? She had pineapple in her stomach. So the cold case detective thought that was one of the most important evidence details
if it's a pedo,
for him.
Pedos legitimately feel like they're super attracted to a kid. Like, they have some kind of weird bond with them in
like
the same
an adult
way that, like, you would be super on, like, a a girl or a dude you find super hot out there at the club and you're flirting and things like that. And pedos do that same kind of thing. So,
Yes.
like, the pedo could have been like, well, what's your favorite food? Oh, really? You know, let's get you some. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Okay,
it's gross, but-
so just finishing up this guy, okay, Gary, Olivia, or whatever, the police acknowledged the letters of confession in 2019. That's when this happened, 2019.
Yeah.
And they said, they acknowledged them, they said they knew they were there, but they kind of swept them under the carpet and was like, we looked into it, we don't have anything more to say about it. His DNA doesn't match. Okay, this guy has a history of abuse, child sexual abuse, and he carried a picture of JonBenét in his backpack, which was found when he was arrested in 2000 on a drug charge. He also had a stun gun in his backpack and a poem called Ode to JonBenét. He also claimed he made a shrine of her and that she wasn't like the other kids. And then in 2016, he was arrested on child porn charges. And, he had a stun gun in his backpack, which I don't know what the real evidence is for this, but I've heard people say she had 2 marks on her cheek, she had 2 marks on the back of her neck, she had 2 marks on her lower back. I'm guessing she did have 2 little puncture marks somewhere on her body. I don't know why I can't find the official, evidence for that. I've heard people say it's all over the place. But they said it seems like it could be consistent with a stun gun. Anyway, the dad is saying on, court TV and stuff, he did an interview saying that he believes that Gary could have done it, that it should be looked into, but he wants DNA testing the same way the California Golden State Killer, you know how they did the reverse DNA, like the family history mapping and stuff? He wants that done with the DNA that was found on his daughter.
Okay.
But the police won't give it up.
What?
They won't let it go. They will not give up the DNA to get that testing done.
Wow.
And even a
weird.
random benefactor called him and was like, hey, if it's money that the police are worried about, I will front all the money. I will pay for all of it. If they just do it, police still won't do it.
That's ridiculous. That is crazy. Oh my gosh.
So I'm wondering why. Why won't the police give it up? What is the reason for that? I'm so curious because this is a very cold case. Besides these weird random pedos that keep popping up confessing to it. One completely disproven. He just wanted clout, I guess, or was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Obsessed with the case. People are thinking that it's the same thing with this Gary guy, that he's really obsessed with the case. But he was nearby. He was there. He was at the vigil.
Yeah.
He was there.
Yeah, but was
in the neighborhood homeless.
Okay, so he was proven to be in that area during that time.
Yes,
Got
absolutely. Hanging out with homeless people in the church parking lot, getting his mail there.
Not homeless. He was probably staying in their house somewhere, as scary as that is.
It's a huge house. How do we not think that's not possible?
I totally do. You know how many different videos we've seen of people living in these tiny spaces, in these small homes in big cities?
So scary. Like that guy in New York had a person up in that little space in his apartment.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Absolutely.
What if that's what was going on? What if he was going in and out of that window in their basement, living in there?
Yes. Totally possible. It is totally possible.
Just saying. I mean, who knows? But anyway, that's the updates on the case. I want to know which theory you think makes the most sense. Because I'm just not sure. The mother died in 2006 of ovarian cancer, which is really sad. But John the dad, he said he really wants this solved for, he wants to solve it before he dies, but he really hopes it to be solved for his grandkids, for closure for the family.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I hope he gets it. I hope in his lifetime, even though his wife, Patsy, couldn't see, justice for JonBenét, I hope he gets to see that. And I honestly don't think that the parents did it.
Yeah.
I
don't
think it's
the
too
parents
brutal.
did it based off what I'm seeing.
And there's no way a 9-year-old boy made a makeshift garrote, okay?
Yeah, I agree.
There's no way.
Well, a 9-year-old boy also wouldn't think of shoving that stuff in her body. The wood, splinter stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I don't
it's
agree
a lot.
with that.
I don't think it was the family, to be honest. That's
Yeah,
not
I don't think so
That's
either.
not how I feel, but I'm no expert over here,
Yep.
so
I don't think it is the family, personally. I have no idea who it is. I would definitely want to look into it more. But it's weird how this has been so big again lately.
yeah, and it's not even new. That confession isn't new.
Yeah.
So and that guy was being looked into like literally right after her murder, a year after, by a private investigator. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just,
wild.
maybe it's not him at all, but it makes me curious if there's like a homeless... The dad said there's a lot of weird people walking around back then in Boulder, Colorado. Even now, it's like there is like a lot of rich people there, but there's also a lot of like different interesting people that, you know, kind of move through that area. So who knows? It could have been a traveler.
Yeah,
It could have... If there's a homeless community, maybe it's a random homeless person who, you know, ran off to a different place in the country again.
A lot of our viewers and people who are leaving comments come up with some really good ideas, some things that I was like, wow, I never thought of that at all. You know, with one guy commented on the Idaho 4 with the dog hair and girl hair, since it was all women and an animal in that house, and it was just like really, really good the way he was presenting it. And we have quite a few other people that brought up some theories as well. So please, you guys, if you know any information or have a suggestion, leave some comments down, because you guys leave a lot of really good stuff, and I appreciate it. It gets my brain working and thinking and trying to figure it out. So.
And I this is, like I said, it's like it's an old case that, you know, every true crime junkie or even average person pretty much knows about.
Yeah.
And there's so many theories. Like, there's so much into it that it's hard to even sort it all out. So I would love any other opinions. I'm not so sure that any of these people that are listed suspects are even the one.
Mm-hmm.
Any of them.
Yeah.
I think there's something we just don't know.
Yeah, like any case.
All right, that's all I got, though, for JonBenét.